Towards the end of the 2023 financial year, Nigerian financial regulatory authorities, headed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, issued a release on BVN and NIN updates. This has changed the narrative in the banking industry as much as it affects fintech in the nation. It has, however, impacted the vast percentage of the banked, underbanked, and the unbanked who found comfort in fintech solutions to execute financial transactions, leveraging on the cashless policy which has come to stay. In this episode, we would analyze the justification behind updates, its impact, as well as a new revelation which exposed some private websites having access to main database. I'm not alone in the studio today. Akimbami is here with me, and together we will serve you today's offering. My name is Abimbola Ilori, and you are watching ICT Today. Glad to know that you are still with us on the show. And Akimbami, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
There has been a lot of back and forth on the issues of BVN and NIN. Larger percentage of Nigerian banks are currently pushing their customers to come and link their national identification number, NIN, and bank verification number, BVN, as the March deadline fixed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, passes. So my question is, it is very surprising to be receiving messages from banks telling customers to come for BVN updates. To my very best of knowledge, haven't Nigeria passed this phase? I mean, we have all updated these numbers.
Well, you are very correct, but it is only our BVN that has been updated, not NIN.
Okay.
And besides that, it is also a directive from the CBN to ensure that all customers get their BVN and NIN linked together.
Okay.
So it is the account. It is the directive.
So if it is the directive from CBN, does that mean that it applies to everyone? This should only be applicable to new customers, not old customers. I mean, accounts that were opened 10 years ago should not be affected.
Well, that could be true.
Okay.
But according to the bank sources, some customers who have linked their BVN are still having some discrepancies. They discovered that there are some irregularities in their accounts.
Okay.
For instance, when BVN were captured, the names they have on their BVN data is quite different from the one they have on their NIN. So because of these discrepancies, they have to ensure that they have to come again in order to do those regularities.
To update the database, to update their information.
Yes, and to perfect their records.
Okay, people might have moved from one location to another. Some might have changed jobs. Some might have changed addresses, residential addresses. Phone numbers might have changed. Some might have gotten married, changed surname and all that. Yeah. Okay. So, but I know that BVN is already 10 years since it was rolled out. If I'm not mistaken, BVN was rolled out in February 2014.
Yes.
Yeah. So does this mean that the numbers, the BVN number, does it mean that it is only valid for 10 years? And another point I want us to clear is, why update both? Why both numbers?
Well, it doesn't mean that it has gotten or it has expired. Their BVN or NIN has expired. No. But why they have to do this is because some of those information, as we mentioned, are not tallying.
Okay.
So in order to regularize all this, they have to ensure that they need to redo those exercises so as to regularize their details.
Okay. So that's why we need both the BVN, and the NIN. Okay. All right. So, but my take is that I'm of the opinion that this would definitely have great impact on both the banking system and the customers, because I can imagine the rigor we passed through when we were updating, even when BVN was launched 10 years ago, and going through that exercise now. The deadline has passed. Now, today is the last day. I mean, the deadline is passing, is gradually passing already. What comes after the deadline? And we know that many are yet to comply with this instruction. Yes.
Well, it's true. It won't be a kind of hectic work on the back of on the part of the banking and their staffs,
Okay.
because as at March 15 of this year, which is 2024, we have increased number of people who has to go for this capturing or for this data validation.
Okay, so there has been an increase in the number of captured data.
Of course, if I'm not mistaken, in fact, the number has been increased to about 61.6 million.
Okay.
And that even give us about increase of 26 as of January 2026, 2024.
Okay.
We have a BVN database stood at 59.9 million.
Okay.
So that really shows that there are increase. People respond to these messages,
okay,
and they have to.
Okay, like I've said that there has been a lot of changes in the residential addresses. People got married,
phone number,
people that are newborns that attain the age of banking.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
they also captured those data.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what does this translate to? Because I know that the instruction cuts across tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 accounts.
Of course.
And I want you to explain these tiers of accounts, these account types. They are the tier 1, the tier 2, tier 3, and also many have also found solace in fintech solution for transactions. Does this update apply to them? And the March ending is now.
Sure. Though on the issue of types of accounts that we run here in Nigeria, like tier 1 to 3.
Yes.
Tier 1 accounts is the account that has to do with a transaction that allows a account holder to have a transaction of both inflow and outflow of about 50,000 on a daily basis.
Threshold. That's the maximum.
That is the maximum on a daily basis.
Okay.
While tier 2 accounts also is the kind of account that allow transaction of 200,000. That is both your inflow and outflow has to be within this amount.
Within the limit of 200,000.
Limit of 200,000.
So you cannot go beyond 200,000. Even if you have a transaction that is more than that, it won't be allowed.
No, it won't allow.
Okay, that is based on what criteria? Their means of registration or the kind of identification they dropped during the account opening.
Of course, that is in fact that really being the more reason for this, because for instance, some may during the account opening they will just ask you, give us your passport. Do you have any means of identification?
Anyone.
Okay. Take note.
Anyone. Okay.
However, it may not be a regulatory ID card.
Okay.
You understand? So, but because they are looking for customers, they will not ask you, oh, don't bother this and that. They will only that
so
they know
that's when the threshold comes in. So because of the identification presented during the opening, they place a threshold on the account that you can't go beyond it. So is a control measure such that even if there is any risk involved, it won't go beyond the limit of the bank and even of the customer.
Okay. Why that of the tier 3 is a kind of the highest account, so to say, in the sense that one can allow you to have a higher minimum balance requirement.
Okay, there is no restriction on that.
There is no restriction on that one. Okay. Why their requirement differs.
Okay.
So that is those 3 accounts that we run. However, on the fintech solution that you mentioned, all these fintech, that is MMO, mobile money operators, they too also have their regulatories.
Yes.
They have what guides them, rules that guide them. So most of them, during the opening stage, they will even ask you to put in your BVN or your NIN. So that also shows that they too, in one way or the other, are being affected.
I stumbled across a material online that says that 1 or 2 of those MMOs is actually enforcing their customers to that any account that does not comply with BVN and NIN updates, they are going to close those accounts.
Of course.
But I know that those ones will not have challenges because they are digitally operated.
Yes,
and they don't have
yes, they are digitally
managed.
Yes. Good. In the sense that at the corner of your home, wherever, even you are on the move or wherever you be, you may quickly run that.
Yeah.
And that is one advantage about it.
Okay.
Compared to the other banking,
conventional
banking style.
Yes.
Is there, because you have to go to the banking hall, queue, or do this, do that, while you have to leave some other things.
Okay.
So that is why it is very important that all this.
So it applies to both the fintech solutions as well as the conventional banks.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, that's taken. And you would agree with me that digital privacy is a serious concern in cybersecurity and releasing two key personal data to prevent being suspended from banking. This is our country, right? Are you sure that this will do not much more harm than good?
Well, it is true. Digital privacy, or which we can also refer to as protection of private online data,
yes,
is very important.
Yes.
But one thing is that we all know that everything has its merit and demerits. In terms of that, it is true that customer may be apprehensive about their sharing some informations about their date of birth, their phone number, and some other things like that, because of either unauthorized access that people may have to it.
That's the concern.
That is the concern. However, we will not allow this to maybe discourage us, because there are some measures that one can take in order to guide against all this.
Okay, so there shouldn't be any cause for alarm. Is that what you say?
There shouldn't be any cause for alarm.
That your answer.
If there is, there is a way of how we can go about it.
Okay. If your last answer would actually prompt me to ask you this question. And this issue I want to mention: recently, a private website was called out for having unrestricted access to NIN database and the personal details of every registered Nigerians. We are talking about data privacy, and you said there is no cause for alarm. We're still releasing our BVN and NIN to banks. But this is a private site that does not have any relation or any agreement with NIN having access to NIN database. They were called out. How did this happen?
Nobody know how it happened, how it started. But one thing that is certain is that NIMC as a body has actually failed Nigerians in terms of what they ought to be doing, protecting people's data. Because I was surprised that how could a website have access to all this data? So, as at the moment, we can't actually say, though investigations are going on to see.
The investigation actually shows that this website they are making free money. No, they do not only have access to the database, but they are making free money from this access. If I may, it is the responsibility of NIMC, right?
Yes.
To create, manage, maintain, and operate the national identity database. So, you said they have failed. Can you broaden that?
Yes, because why I say so is that according to the section 14 of NINC Act 2007, it was mandated that NIMC must be a body that will create, manage, and at the same time maintain and operate the national identity database of all the Nigerians. So now, are they doing that right now? No. That means something has really happened, transpired.
What I think and that I know is that there is a backdoor somewhere.
Of course.
Is being acted upon.
Of course.
It is a loophole that this site is taking advantage of. But I know that that the site has actually been taken down. I think the site has been taken down. But be that as it may, do we know how much has been exposed? I mean, there's no relationship between this site and NIMC. So do we know how much of our data that has been
exposed to them? Well, I would say we don't. We don't know, because NIMC are yet to disclose to us the relationship that both of them have in common.
There is no official statement from NIMC.
Yes. Even who owns this website is still unknown till today. To what extent it has gone, I can't say. So that is why many are scared about this. But the fact is that we are still on the safe side. We are still on the safer hand. There are still measures that we can do in order to protect our data, even wherever we are.
Anyways, I want to put it here that it was gathered that as at 17th of March 2024, the website has been suspended by its domain registrar.
Yes.
So does this mean that the data, that our data with NIMC is no longer vulnerable?
Well, we can't really say, because the website does not confirm what type of information those guys have access to, and to what extent. So either our data is still vulnerable with them or not, we can't actually say. But we are very sure of one thing, that there is no restriction to the number that this NIN related data could be fetched as at when it was checked.
We are in God's hands, and let me say on a final note here that could you please roll out tips on how to salvage your information if by any means these two key data, BVN, very key, NIN, has been vulnerable? Yes, we know that the information is out there. Somebody somewhere had access to it. But on our own personal, on our side as an individual, if you find yourself in the digital space, we are talking about money. We are talking about financial transactions here.
Sure.
How do you protect yourself when it comes to this information, and as it relates to financial transactions generally?
Well, I mentioned something earlier on that no matter how my data must have gone viral, we are still on the safe side.
Okay.
What I mean is that, like what you mentioned, what are some measures that we can now put in place to ensure that we secure our data?
Yes.
One thing that is we can do, one, we can change our password, our PIN, especially as related to our transaction, our money with any banks we may be running. The thing is that change your PIN, change your password, and at the same time also secure your devices. Securing of our devices should also be important. Many of us, we do all these transactions on our mobile phones. Many don't secure their mobile phones. In fact, some will even save their password and PIN inside a message or a kind of composed message, draft in their messages.
Just not to forget.
Just not to forget.
But it's
actually
posing
device.
more danger than...
That is it. So another measure we can also seek is that we have to educate ourselves as well.
That part of what we are doing here
exactly
now.
And if by prevention we also notice that there are something going on that we are not too sure about our
transactions,
about our transaction is ongoing, we can also consult with the bank. Either to
there are outlines, there are channels.
Exactly. That immediately you notice anything wrong with your account, call this number instead of running
most
down.
of them do even have a direct line, WhatsApp line that you can easily chat
we can easily chat with them,
and they have
do the needful.
They have 24-hour call line also.
Of course. Another thing is that we can also seek to relevant authorities. We have, but many of our security men now are also ready to assist us. So when we notice anything, discrepancy or any kind of threat into our account, we can seek their advice. And also we need to also stay informed. Staying informed will help us to keep abreast of development. What is going on? What should I do? And what are the measures that I can also take up in order to do all these things? So by doing all this, we will see that truly we can secure our data. Yes.
Thank you very much. It is a collective responsibility to make and keep the digital space safe for everyone. We will continue to keep you informed and educated as it relates to digital space. Akimbami, thank you for being on the show today, and it's indeed a pleasure having you around, contributing to knowledge.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
It's a wrap for today. Link up with OGTV on all our social media platforms. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Click the bell icon to receive updates when we post new content and for news and happenings around you. Check our website on www.ogtv.com.ng/live. Until next time when I come your way again, remember, if it is digital, it is part of ICT.